Guys. Today I want to talk to you guys about our oceans, okay? Our oceans are one of our biggest ecosystems. It acts as the kind of foundation for every other ecosystem because they're all intertwined in our world, keeping each other in balance, keeping each other in harmony, depending on each other to keep each other in check. Now, this ocean, as I said, is the foundation that we stand on. But however, our own human influence is causing us to crumble that very foundation and putting our entire world at risk. Now, we depend on our oceans more than we give them credit for, okay? So, the oceans filter the air we breathe. According to the Earth-Sky Organization, 85% of the air we breathe on a daily basis comes from the oceans, all the phytoplankton that live within its waters. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration states that the ocean displaces the sun's heat around the globe. It absorbs the sun's heat and makes it kind of like convection current, so everything's heated more equally and independently. Now, without the ocean, at our poles, they'd be extremely frigid. They'd be unbearable, close to absolute zero. And at our equator, it would become a desert wasteland where no moisture existed and where no life could ever live. And going forward to what the ocean's doing for us right now, the ocean is responsible for all the weather that we're experiencing in our climate. And this weather is even in the middle of our continents. It's not on our coast where we can see it, but around the globe, the ocean is what's monitoring all of our weather. Now, as well as this, as far as the economy, the ocean is a humongous contributor. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the ocean provides 3 million jobs every year, and these jobs are everything from commerce, whether it be trading from foreign countries back to the U.S., or whether it be protecting our waters, or whether it be the shipping industry side of it, and even the feeding our nation with our fishing fleets. All this contributes into the nation's net worth, and this is all made possible by the ocean. And however, the ocean's under attack, and it's not by any inanimate force. It's about us. It's about ourselves. We as a people are using the ocean as a landfill, but as I said before, we're also using it as a source of food. And this has been going on for over a millennia, where the ocean has been ravaged by humankind's unkindness. Now, everything we do, whether it be fertilizing our fields, whether it be washing our laundry, or the things that we power our cars with, or the excrement, our own waste, is all leaching into the ocean. And all this is leaching in the ocean, and the inhabitants of the ocean themselves are taking this in, and they're digesting it, and they're eating it, and it's becoming part of their ecosystem that we depend on, and in turn, we're eating our own waste. We're eating those chemicals that we put into the ocean. What we're damaging the ocean with is coming right back to us, and we don't realize it. And if this continues on, we're going to start seeing those bigger effects where people are going to start getting poisoned by the things that we're putting in the ocean, because we're eating the fish coming out of the ocean. Now, one of the biggest issues is, let's not ignore global warming. Now, what we feel, we complain about it on a daily basis, how the days are getting hotter. But these changes aren't happening just in our continents, they're happening around the globe in our oceans. The Environmental Defense Fund states that the waters located near our reefs have become unordinarily warm. Compared to the previous years, the waters as a whole are warming up. And with this warm waters, they're unable to contain less oxygen. And this, with our coral reefs, has become to what we call like a bleaching effect. Our corals are becoming paler, they're unable to support their inhabitants, and the corals themselves are dying. Now, if you know anything about the coral reefs, they're humongous. They span miles, and they themselves contain an entire ecosystem, thousands and thousands of species of fish and animals that other things depend on, that we, in turn, depend on. It's a humongous portion of the ecosystem, and with the sun bleaching, this entire ecosystem can wither and die and cause the collapse of what we know and hold dear. Now, however, all of these terrible things are going on, and they're not going unrecognized. Some of our biggest, like oil suppliers and gas suppliers, such as, let's say, Conoco. Conoco is the third biggest oil company supplying our gas. They've invested $22 million towards the research of finding alternate fuel alternatives. And even though this is against their own industry, they're wanting to spearhead the effort into saving our environment, because they know that even though it's what gives them money, that if they don't fund a better future, we're not going to have a future. And along with this, they're partnering with Tyson towards taking what we already have and what we already consume, such as animals. They're taking that animal fat and producing it and transferring it into fuels. And there's also organizations out there. The organization of Global Green created the Green Schools Initiative, which is, it's located and focused primarily in Southern Florida and Southern California. And it states that all new schools built in Southern California must be built so they have little to no carbon imprint. Okay, so they don't depend on any coal power plants, or they issue smart fleets within their buses and they reduce those bus routes, so they're infecting the environment as least as they possibly can. And this goes for how much they impact the natural surrounding area when they're building these schools. They're not tearing down entire forests, they're building in places that were already there for them, and they don't have to tear down ecosystems in the process. Now, without progress, there is no progress without activism. The more activism there is regarding the issue, there's a correlative awareness that follows suit. Okay, as the issues with global warming become the main topics and discussions, bigger steps are taken in the right direction. The more and more we talk about these things and make them aware, the more that these topics don't stand on the side bench, because people are starting to understand what a big problem taking care of our oceans are, why they're such a big issue, why they're a necessity for us to stay alive. Now, though there are steps being taken, it should only be the beginning of the change. We need to get out there. We need to realize how we depend on these oceans, how they're being affected by the actions that we're taking, how we're putting those oils, those detergents, the sewage, everything else is affecting these fish and all these other organisms that are collapsing these organisms, killing the coral reefs, and in turn leaching back into our own lifestyles. We're consuming these things, feeding these things to our kids. And as I said before, these are going to start to affect us. We're going to start polluting the oceans even more. We're going to have those oil spills. We're going to continuously increase the amount of output that we have of detergents, and those will become more apparent in our foods. Now, though these organizations such as Conoco are taking the forefront, they're taking those actions, those initiatives to make this a better place to live, to make the world a better place, they can't do it alone. We ourselves have to take action, and all I'm asking of you is next time that you find yourself in a conversation about the world and where it's going, don't become a bystander. Take that initiative, bring up the topic of global warming, bring up how important our oceans are, and that way this can become more aware, and through this, the ocean itself, without a mouth, has a voice. Thank you guys for listening.